Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Tables, Ladders, and Chairs. I'm your host, Eric, joined as always by my trusty co-host, T. T, how are you tonight?
Doing all right.
Right on, man. It is Survivor Series weekend is upon us, and we were talking about it a little bit on the, as I like to call it, the show before the show. You and I like to get on here and discuss some things before we get on. Um, You know, I feel like WWE made their statement when they said that this is like the All-Star game. And much like many of the All-Star games, me being a big sports guy, I don't care about the All-Star games. And maybe that explains my lack of caring about this pay-per-view. Is if it is supposed to be WWE's All-Star game, I don't like All-Star games in general. So, okay, they're Sunday night. The Colts the Chargers and the Steelers are playing on Sunday Night Football, the same time as Survivor Series. T, if you will, please sell me on Survivor Series. Try to convince me to turn it on instead of Sunday Night Football.
Wrestling.
Okay, I mean, that's actually probably the best thing you could have done anyway. But okay, let's start by going down the card. WWE champion Big E versus Universal champion Roman Reigns. I think it's the most intriguing of the champion versus champion matches because we haven't seen that match before. And so, what are your thoughts going to that match? Is this something? Do you think it's more they're going to put Roman over again? I think to me it makes more sense to put Big E over in this spot because that moves him up to that level.
So probably just be one of those matches where, of course, Roman wins, probably by some shenanigans, usual. But Big E will probably put up a pretty good fight.
Yeah, to me, it's all about making sure that you put Big E on that. Like right now, Roman Reigns and the Universal Champion, that should be the main event of every pay-per-view from now until as long as he's got the Universal title.
And it has been so far.
Right. Yeah, it pretty much has been since he won the belt. And that is the main event. And they should go on last on Sunday, right?
I would think so.
Yeah, because of course it's the match I'm looking forward to. And I don't have work on Monday, so I could stay up and watch it. Okay, so yeah, I think that's the best match of the night. Let's talk about the match we've seen 1,000 times. They could probably do the match in their sleep. Charlotte Flair, Becky Lynch. Any surprises there, or is it just going to be a typical, real? I mean, they'll have a banger. It'll be a great match, as the kids say. But should I expect new offense pulled out?
Probably not.
Yeah. I think we might see a lot of counters and stuff missed because so they can talk about, oh, well, these two know each other so well, they could probably tell you what the other's going to do before they know it.
It's pretty much one of those if it ain't broke, don't fix it type matches.
Yeah, I agree with that. Probably should be the semi-main event too. I think it's big enough to be. The men's Survivor Series elimination match. I feel like Raw kind of screwed themselves over. This whole wanting to replace half the team on either side, the week of Survivor Series, for a pay-per-view that really didn't have much build to begin with, they haven't, changing it up midstream like that, to me, just more or less screams you didn't know what you were doing coming in.
Well, I'm hoping, as I read earlier somewhere, there's rumors going around because there's still a spot open on the SmackDown team.
Mm-hmm.
There might be a surprise fifth man for SmackDown, and I'm hoping it's true. Please be true that it might be Walter.
Ooh. Ooh, that would be pretty awesome. I've been wanting him to make the jump to the main roster. And you put him on SmackDown, and all of a sudden, man, you've got the international stars are on SmackDown. You've got Cesaro, Nakamura. You throw Walter in there, along with Ridge Holland. I mean, that all of a sudden, like, the depth of the SmackDown roster is just incredible then.
I mean, besides NXT, SmackDown is pretty much the it show on WWE right now.
Yeah, where
Walter was just
right, making Raw the it show. Yeah, it like to me, like Raw really did themselves a disservice. Like, you know, if you're just looking at this, forgetting about the fact there's a script involved, but every member of the Raw roster, of the Raw team, had been either WWE or Universal Champion. So you took out Rey Mysterio, a former Royal Rumble winner, and you replace him with Austin Theory. Now, I love Austin Theory. I think he's got tremendous upside. I think he could be one of those guys that is here for the next 2 decades, just knocking out bangers. Like, really. And, yeah, by the way, the word I learned today is, talking to the youngsters was banger. So that's why I'm using that up tonight. But I think Austin Theory is going to be like a big bout machine to where, like, you're talking about guys who will main event like WrestleManias after WrestleMania. Like, I think right now, I'll call it, what are we, 12 years out? I will say Austin Theory main events WrestleMania 50. I will go that far in advance. I think Austin Theory will main event WrestleMania 50. I really hope I'm right on this. And you know what I'm really hoping? I'm hoping we're still doing our shows at WrestleMania 50 so I can talk about how I was right. But that being said, dude, Rey Mysterio is a legit legend. He, like, to me, that was a reason for me to be excited about the match. And now you took away some of that excitement. Like, if you were going to do something like this, I would have rather them do it like night of. Like, all of a sudden, Rey Mysterio, like, shows up. He's thinking he's ready. Like, and maybe have him get jumped beforehand and people can think that it was, it was Adam Pearce trying to get back. For whatever reason, he's decided he's picking a fight with the Mysterios. Which I typically, like, I like the heel general manager role. Like, I like the heel official overall. Like, I thought it was great when the Authority were in control. Vince McMahon, the Vince McMahon Stone Cold Steve Austin, like, that run was just phenomenal. So I really like Adam Pearce as the heel. I'd like to have some kind of reason as to why he's now picking on the Mysterios.
And especially during the same time where Sonya Deville's picking on Naomi. Like, could have spread that out a little.
Right. And I don't understand. Like, you have two officials in charge, but they're both on both Raw and SmackDown. Wouldn't it make sense to, like, say, have Pearce in charge of Raw, Sonya in charge of SmackDown? Or vice versa. I don't really care. But, like, I mean, because if you're wanting to keep this, like, you can have this Mysterio storyline, you can have the Sonya and Naomi storyline. To me, like, I'm wondering I want to get into the Sonya and Naomi storyline in a second, but like to me, like wouldn't it make more sense if you're having these separate locker rooms to have like, and you have two people in charge, two officials, to have one on Raw, one on SmackDown?
Yeah.
So okay, I just said I wanted to get to the Naomi Sonya Deville storyline. I gotta ask the question: building this storyline, one you started, I guess, was it almost 2 months ago? Maybe I'm exaggerating. It just feels like that long. Um, what's the payoff? Like, I would imagine you have to have Naomi and Sonya in a match at some point. Like, are we blowing this out of TLC? Is this? Are we going to the Royal Rumble with this? Like, are they going
I
to
don't
try to carry this momentum to WrestleMania? I don't know how they're going to be able to carry them all the way to WrestleMania without them having a match together beforehand. Because you're talking almost 6 months from now.
Wow, if they're gonna carry that all the way to WrestleMania, they really better deliver.
Right. And I mean, as much as I always liked Sonya, I always thought like she was one of those underutilized. And I don't know if there's some reason, like if she's like physically not able to compete anymore or what it is. Like, I always thought Sonya was one of those that, was going to be like of that Charlotte Flair ilk. Like, I thought she was that good that she could deliver, like, put her in the ring with a Becky Lynch and let them tear the house down. Like, I always believed that about Sonya.
I agree.
And so, like, I mean, I think she can go. And you could, like, again, unless there's some injury that we don't know about, like, that's keeping her out of the ring. Sonya and Naomi, like, just put them in the ring and let them set the world on fire. Like, I think they could do it. But, like, neither one has delivered to that level. I mean, I think they can, but they haven't. Like, to me, that's a lot to put on to be like, if you were going to do this with Charlotte Flair, I'd believe it a lot more. If you were going to do this with Becky Lynch, I'd believe it a lot more. Because I think if nothing else, you're going to get a quality bout out of, the Charlotte or Becky. But Naomi, I mean, as much as I love Naomi, there's been times that she's underdelivered. And, granted, most of the time it's because WWE has put the kibosh on any push of hers. And the same thing with Sonya Deville. To me, without having a history of those two being able to deliver, how are you carrying this? Because at this point, it's becoming one of the major stories, right?
Yeah, it's kind of one of the main features on SmackDown.
Right. And you got to have it pay off somewhere. Like, it has to end with Naomi and Sonya in a match. And I would assume probably, a loser's fired match or something.
I'm thinking they'll probably lead towards whoever is in the higher ups. Not exactly Vince, but someone up there. Maybe do some kind of performance review, and they see how unfair Sony is being. So they book Sonya and Naomi in I don't know, like a steel cage match or something. And yeah, like you said, a loser gets fired or something. Just to get some big, I don't know what word to use, but
Get some heat to it. Yeah.
Increase heat. There you go.
Yeah. I mean,
Because right now it's just Naomi. I mean, Sony is screwing over Naomi every week, and that's it.
Right. And at some point, that's going to get old.
Some point.
As we say, at some point, maybe 3 weeks ago, it got old. Hey, look, and I'm all for them doing things to, to push a story. Like some of the stuff, like I don't think they're willing to go far enough most of the time with their stories. Like this is one of those that I think they could go even further. Like it could be, they could get into Naomi's personal life and screwing it. Like, what if Sonya started screwing with Jimmy Uso too? To like to just to get to Naomi. And then how much ire does that draw of Roman Reigns? And then Roman, having to go to Jimmy Uso and be like, hey, straighten out your wife because we can't have her causing problems for the bloodline. Yeah, I feel like you could take this to that next level.
That would be a nice cross story type thing too.
Right. Because right now it's basically like Naomi's a babyface, Jimmy Uso's a heel, and so they just don't have them interact. And everybody knows, yeah, they're married in real life. You don't have to have them in the same stories, but sometimes when they're in a big story, it could benefit you to kind of blur that line a little more. And I think that's a way they could do it. And I'd love to see them take it in that direction at some point. Especially, you said, if we're going to carry this all the way to Mania, like, you're going to have to find some different ways to generate heat to this. But I think you're right. It is going to lead to some kind of... I'm just hoping we're not in a Shane McMahon, Kevin Owens type situation where they build and build, and then they put the match on SmackDown. And I understand it was the debut episode on Fox, and it was a big deal. But that deserved to be on a pay-per-view. I thought for sure they were going to Hell in a Cell with that, because that was the pay-per-view at the time. And we were having 2 straight years of Shane McMahon, Kevin Owens inside Hell in a Cell. And I was actually all for it at the time. This time, Kevin Owens is the babyface, Shane is the heel. Although, it would kind of spit in the face of everything Kevin Owens had talked about, how, like, other superstars, like, talk about another area in which guys blurred the lines of reality. Like, when Kevin Owens was in that storyline against Shane McMahon and talking about how him saying he was the best in the world was a slap in the face and he started naming all these wrestlers that, were being underutilized. The first name that jumps out of my head was Buddy Murphy, and Buddy Murphy was being underutilized terribly. And in fact, it was criminal that they let him go. But if they weren't going to use him, I'd rather them do that, like Aleister Black. Him getting released, getting to go over to AEW. They put him in a great storyline with Cody Rhodes. And Malachi Black is off and running, like, in AEW. And could easily, if they want, put him in the world title picture at any point. Whereas WWE, it's like they have their members only club. And it's like only those guys get to have world title matches.
Yeah.
And occasionally we let somebody break through, like a Cesaro, and have a one-off with Roman Reigns. And then it's right back down the card for you.
Yeah, really thought this was going to be Cesaro's year. Guess not.
I still told you, what I'd love to see is, like, the way that they would push Cesaro would be have him, just innocently win a couple singles matches, like, in a row, like, middle of the show, like, no big deal. But then just start continuously, like, it's a weekly thing. Cesaro just keeps winning matches. And in fact, I don't want the announcers to bring it up. I don't want them to talk about it at all. And then Cesaro would either shockingly win the Royal Rumble or win the Elimination Chamber match, giving him a WrestleMania title match. And when they talk about it, Cesaro comes out and says, hey, I haven't lost a match since October. And everyone sits there and be like, oh, shoot, he hasn't lost a match since October. You know, like, and that be part of the promo and part of the lead, and that makes you think, you know what? I believe Cesaro could win at WrestleMania. I would love to see it, but they'll probably go Roman Reigns, Brock Lesnar, because I'm sure they'll have Brock Lesnar off his suspension. His suspension. I love the meme with Brock Lesnar. It's like, you're suspended. I don't even really work here, man.
And $1 million. Ooh.
Yeah, $1 million. It's probably like that Monopoly money that we took at Home Depot the other day.
What?
I don't know if you heard about that. There is a $50 bill that was found at work that it was movie money, motion picture money, and somehow it got into my drawer. No.
Okay.
Yeah. So I have a feeling that's the kind of money Brock Lesnar was fined.
Oh hell, even if it was real money, he gets paid like $1 million appearance anyway.
Brock, you're docked one appearance. Okay, I'm not showing up one time. Well, right. Yeah. But yeah, so okay. We started now. I would think the main event we talked about was probably going to be Roman and Big E. So let's talk about the Raw Survivor Series team and the SmackDown Survivor Series team. Now, I know you like the idea of Walter. If Walter is the fifth guy for SmackDown, then I want SmackDown to win, and I want Walter to at least be one of the survivors. And that immediately elevates Walter.
No arguments here.
Now, I would assume he's going to come out as a heel, and I would love for it to come down. Like, maybe you have two SmackDown survivors, Walter and Drew McIntyre. I would love for that to set up Walter versus Drew McIntyre at TLC. And I think Walter should win.
Also, yes.
Yeah. I'm a big Walter fan. And so I would love to see him elevated. In fact, I would love to see him maybe by the Royal Rumble, or maybe at the Royal Rumble, Walter wins the Intercontinental title from Shinsuke Nakamura.
Down for that.
Yeah. So, in fact, I would love to see all of Imperium up there helping Walter. Maybe have the Imperium, show up and help Walter win the Intercontinental title from Nakamura.
And that could probably set up a future Imperium versus Nakamura and Rick Boogs match.
That'd be fun. I'd be in for that. I would totally be in for that. Maybe you could do that at like Fastlane or something. Especially, and have that be Nakamura's got to run and you could have a gauntlet match, Nakamura versus all three members of Imperium. And he has to win them in order to get his Intercontinental title rematch at WrestleMania. So we had Nakamura and Walter 2 at WrestleMania. Think of this. See, I always talk about Survivor Series is really the start of WrestleMania season. Because, you start laying the groundworks. Like, go back to the Attitude Era. If you go back and watch Survivor Series 98, that set the course for Stone Cold and The Rock at WrestleMania 15. And, and so many other instances in which they've done stuff like that they've set the course at Survivor Series. Sting, Triple H, the course for that match was set at Survivor Series. And Undertaker Kane, which I still believe is the greatest story WWE has ever told. Now that started earlier. That started a month earlier. But that was a great case of you set a story, you lead to something. And I think that could be, that in my mind happens a lot at Survivor Series. And I think that could happen this year. And I mean, you could have the winner of the Royal Rumble. Like, I've told you, I think that, well, I'd love for Cesaro to win in the scenario that I told you. But if not, I'd be in favor of, like, say, Drew McIntyre winning it, because we've been doing our best to keep Drew kind of away from the Universal title for now. But at some point, we have to have Drew McIntyre, Roman Reigns for the Universal Championship. Like, it just has to happen.
Yeah.
And I'm a fan of Drew's. Like, and I know a lot of people towards the end of someone's championship reign, you saw it with Seth Rollins. You saw it at the end with Drew McIntyre. They get sick of the same guy, like, in that main event spot. And I understand that, but he's one of those guys. I was so happy for him when he got his moment. And then to kind of have it, like, pseudo ripped away from him with the pandemic and not getting to have his, WrestleMania moment in front of a crowd. Although I would argue his moment where, and I feel like it should be immortalized forever, that moment where Drew McIntyre's won the title and they do the close up and he reaches out, like, has his hand out to the audience, like, as if to say, we're all having this moment together. Like, I would say that is as special as any other moment WWE's had. Because it came at a time where, like, people needed that. Like, that was just the beginning of this depressing time. And, I mean, for me, not to get all personal and sappy, like, my father died the week before. So, like, I kind of needed a moment like that, too. And it was special. And so I feel like Drew deserves, like, even though he had really what could be considered one of the more iconic moments, he does deserve that moment in front of a live crowd.
Yeah, well, I guess they could have him win the Rumble. And then maybe, or if he doesn't win the Rumble, then go through the Elimination Chamber. But yeah, he should main event WrestleMania against most likely Roman Reigns.
I would be in for Roman Reigns, Drew McIntyre main eventing night 2 of WrestleMania. What are your thoughts on the 2-night WrestleMania?
I kind of like them now.
They grown on you? Yeah.
I mean, especially since we're not really getting like a takeover, the NXT takeover the night before.
Right.
So we're still getting 2 nights of wrestling. 2 big nights of wrestling at that. Right.
Yeah, I mean, look, I loved the takeovers, and I love the tradition of having a takeover on the same weekend of the Big Four.
Yeah, I don't know why they stopped doing that, but whatever.
You know what? I think the reason why they stopped doing that, because takeover was overshadowing the pay-per-view. It was over delivering against the pay-per-view. I think that's all it is like they couldn't, like, WrestleMania was getting outdone by by takeover. Like SummerSlam, the year they did the takeover in Brooklyn, the first takeover in Brooklyn, like that takeover was so much better than SummerSlam. In fact, both years, I would say, in Brooklyn, that the takeovers were better than SummerSlam. And yeah. So anyway, Sorry, got off down the rabbit hole. Who do you think's winning Survivor Series elimination match? The men, and then we'll do the women.
Well, I mean, it all depends on who SmackDown's fifth man is.
Yeah, if it's Walter, I think I told you I want Walter and Drew McIntyre to be the last two survivors.
I'll keep the faith and go with SmackDown.
Okay. Yeah, I think I'm going to go SmackDown as well. I do think Sami Zayn's going to come out and cost Jeff Hardy an elimination. So I think Jeff gets eliminated thanks to Sami Zayn screwing over his team, screwing over the SmackDown team.
Well, hopefully, if they do that, they can have a little program, and hopefully Jeff Hardy can do his Willow character like he wants to do.
That's what I'm hoping for.
Which
That's
I think
what I'm really hoping for. Sami Zayn versus Willow at TLC.
Which was pretty much teased, like, what was it, last year? That bar fight with Sheamus?
Right.
Where the eyes were, like, all pale white and all that.
Yeah, I thought for sure we were getting Willow the next time they came to, that was on SmackDown, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or some similar type creature.
Yeah, I thought we were getting Willow then. That was like, gosh, it was a year and a half ago. Yeah, I agree with you. I'll go SmackDown as well. The women's match. Any thoughts on that?
I don't know. I just not really that big of a deal.
Well, I don't think any of them are. Oh, you know what? I guess because I had the SmackDown men's win, I'll have the Raw women's win.
I mean, I guess I want to see Bianca Belair win, so I guess I'll go with Raw.
Yeah, and that makes sense. Have Bianca as one of the survivors, or unless you have Doudrop cause Bianca to get eliminated in the match. Although I don't want to see all these run-ins like that. Like I talked about the run-in I want to see from on the men's side. I don't want to see both elimination matches just get riddled with that. Okay, so we went Raw, I guess, on the women's side. The tag team title match, the Usos versus the RK Bro. Any favorite there?
I don't know. I guess I'll pull for the Usos, but either way is fine, whatever.
Yeah, that's one of those I don't think it's going to matter much. I talked about I already feel like the story is written and ready for RK Bro to have an implosion at some point. You could start to plant those seeds if you want at Survivor Series, but if not, I think it's easy enough to plant later on and get that done.
Yeah, Survivor Series would be a good time, and give the Usos a big win. I mean, hey,
right,
Randy Orton.
have one of the Usos pin Randy Orton or something, and that be how it happens. And that, maybe a miscue where Riddle accidentally, hits Randy with something. Yeah, it could work. So the match I'm actually looking forward to, maybe the most, is Damian Priest versus Shinsuke Nakamura, Intercontinental Champion versus U.S. Champion.
The match they haven't even brought up yet.
I know, now I'm just hoping they're having it because I haven't really heard them talk about it, but it's the undercard champions match.
I just hope that ain't a pre-show match.
I know. I am concerned about that being a pre-show match.
Like I said a couple weeks ago, that could be match of the night.
Right. I agree with you. And I guess I'll go Damian Priest. He seems to be the one that's getting the bigger push right now. Although I just want to see Pat McAfee dance on the table every time. Like, that always entertains me. I don't know why. I always know it's going to happen, and I know it's not that good, but like it always entertains me.
I mean, it's no wrong answer, really.
Yeah. Like you said, though, I think it's just going to be match of the night. We don't even need a winner. They can just fight forever. Okay, let's get into our homework assignments. Now, once upon a time, I in school, every now and then, I know this is going to come as a surprise to anybody watching that knew me back in high school. Every now and then, I would forget what my homework assignment was. And I was confused between two matches, whether it was the Money in the Bank pay-per-view where Dean Ambrose won Money in the Bank, and then during the Roman Reigns Seth Rollins match, Dean Ambrose cashed in at the end after Rollins won. I was confused whether it was that matchup or the Battleground match, the triple threat between Ambrose, Rollins, and Seth and Reigns. And so I did what my dad used to tell me to do if I was confused between two homework assignments. Do them both. One of them's got to be right. And so I watched them both. I watched them in chronological order. I actually had forgotten that part of the story in all that was a real life issue that Roman Reigns had gotten suspended for PEDs and, had a strike against the wellness program, and so had to be suspended for 30 days. Thankfully, they had enough time between the end of Money in the Bank and the Battleground pay-per-view for Roman to serve his suspension without taking him out of that matchup. And I've always heard that was the reason why they decided to have Roman drop the title and have, and put the belt on Ambrose. And I mean, what a difference that would have been. Because to me, I think Dean Ambrose, it's one of the more underrated runs, was Dean Ambrose run as WWE champion. It was really very entertaining. And and was kind of a precursor, and I think kind of set the table for AEW believing that Jon Moxley, Dean Ambrose, could carry their belt. And much like in AEW, in WWE, Dean Ambrose dropping the title to AJ Styles, the guy who would ultimately carry the company for a while, just like Moxley dropping the title to Kenny Omega. And hope everybody enjoyed yesterday's National Cowboy Shit Day. That's what AEW was calling it. So, yeah, I will wish everybody a happy Cowboy Shit Day. But yeah, so I enjoyed the matchups. Seth, of course, this was, I think his first, the match he had with Roman at Money in the Bank, I believe, was Seth's first actual match since coming back from his torn ACL. And he really just didn't miss a beat. I mean, he was killing it, the entire match. And Roman kind of slips on a banana peel, and Seth gets the win and wins the championship. And then Ambrose comes right down after having won Money in the Bank earlier in the night and cashes in and becomes champion. So over the course of about 30 minutes, each member of the Shield held the WWE Championship. That was pretty impressive. And then, of course, their triple threat match, which came just days after the first of the new era of the WWE draft, where SmackDown had just moved to Tuesday nights on USA. And, yeah, it had become a live show. And now I believe, is it still live? I guess it is still live.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, because they always do it on Friday nights. Yeah. It's just the kickoff to the weekend now. So yeah, it was really a couple great matches. The Battleground match I thought was the best of any Battleground match, and granted that's not saying much, but the Battleground pay-per-view over the course of its 3 years or so that it existed was just god awful. But the best match was that triple threat. Very much enjoyed that.
Well, I'll give you your extra credit. But the match I wanted you to watch was the triple threat.
Nice. Okay. That was the homework assignment.
Yeah.
Now I'm trying to remember what match I gave you.
You gave me the Shield versus the New Day.
Ah, yes. That was a good call by me. The Survivor Series. What were your thoughts on that one?
It was nice to see those two big factions finally colliding. Similar to Shield and Evolution, but different from that. But yeah, so 6 young guys and 2 big teams. Plus seeing all the promos from earlier and all, or not promos, the flashbacks, vignette, whatever the word is.
Yeah. Yeah, that whole story I thought was a lot of fun. And they had more fun with the Survivor Series back then. I don't know why they don't want to do the invasion angles now.
I know, the whole brand supremacy and invading the other guy's show. That's where all the fun of Survivor Series is.
Right. Yeah, this is the no fun Survivor Series.
I guess they didn't want to make another Becky Lynch.
Yeah, why would we want to do that?
But yeah, the match itself, not 5-star, but 4.5 maybe. It was more so for the story, obviously. SmackDown versus Raw, plus Shield versus New Day.
Yeah, it was a match that, like, as you saw the two factions, like, of course, they kind of mirrored each other. Like, they were heels at the same time and then baby faces at the same time. I kind of wondered if you could ever really tell the right story and put those two together. And I'm glad that they did in that spot.
Be nice if they could do it again today, now that New Day's got some big titles under their waist.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you've got Big E as the WWE champion, King Xavier Woods, and Kofi's there too. I mean, Kofi's the senior member. Like, I mocked him there for a half a second, but yeah, Kofi Kingston, man, he is the senior member of that group and the first one to reach the top of the mountain. And I do think Xavier Woods will get there as well at some point.
Ironically, Kofi is the only one who didn't go through NXT out of that 6 of Shield and New Day. Not that matters, but
no, but it is an interesting thing. Like, coming up the same way at the same time. And Kofi was kind of the senior member. He was the one that I felt like, even though like Roman, Seth, and Dean had all been to main events, like I felt like he was the guy that was going to carry it from the New Day side and being able to make that, a believable battle between the two sides. Because Big E, while everybody loves him and thinks, and thought at the time, yeah, he might eventually be champion, and now he's proven them right. He hadn't really earned that yet. And Xavier Woods is kind of the forgotten member, the guy who, I think for a while people thought was just going to be a supporting cast guy. Was going to be like the Mo from Men on a Mission. Yeah. Wow, I pulled out a Men on a Mission. I did not think I was going to talk about Men on the Mission tonight. So, okay, let's spin the wheel. What do we want to do for next week's homework assignment?
Oh, wait. Next week is
that's right. Thanks. Okay, so it's a 2-week project. So because next week is Thanksgiving, we are not doing a show. As I posted on your Facebook, yeah, no show next week because it's Thanksgiving. I'll be in a food coma at this point. So I figure we can do something a little bigger. Maybe we'll sign a pay-per-view since we are going to have 2 full weeks to do this. So I'm going to go with a pay-per-view where basically they told one story, continuous story the whole night. And that is, it'll be another Survivor Series. It'll be Survivor Series 1998, which is the night of the Deadly Games tournament. One of my favorite events. I remember it was one of the, it was an event I had a bunch of friends from high school. I was still in high school at the time. They all came over. We watched the whole pay-per-view. And then the next day in school, all these people who knew that a bunch of us got together. Who won the tournament? Who won the tournament? So that is your assignment. Survivor Series, Deadly Games tournament.
All right. As for your assignment, I'll go with one of my not necessarily favorites, but they had one of my favorite build-ups of all time.
Okay.
It'll also be a Survivor Series.
Okay.
This is from a time period where I had taken a hiatus from watching wrestling and then recently came back around late 2005-ish, I think 5. It'll be Survivor Series, obviously, 2005.
Nice.
I think that's
okay. I don't know that I've ever even watched Survivor Series 2005.
I hope that's the right one.
What are the matches that you're asking me to look for?
Well, basically, the main event was the 5-on-5, but it was when, like, Kane and Big Show were on Raw, and Batista and I think JBL was on SmackDown.
Was this one where Orton wins and he's on the shoulders and the Undertaker comes out?
Yes.
Okay. All right, cool. Yeah, I've never watched that pay-per-view in its entirety, so yeah, I'm looking forward to watching that now.
I just love the build-up to that elimination match.
All right, well, I might go back and try to watch some of the Raws and SmackDowns leading up to that. Just to give me some real context.
Yeah, dude. I know it's not the greatest of technical work or anything, but the story is where it was at.
Well, yeah, and that's kind of the theme I guess we're both going with. Well, because, I mean, that Survivor Series Deadly Game tournament, like, it actually, like, you don't have the one guy who just battles through and has a real tough road to get to the finals. Like, the whole night is kind of just a big, long story. So it kind of seems like the theme is just great storytelling as opposed to the matches being great spot fests. Like, and look, there's something to be said for the the spot fest, the guys who, just have their great spots that they hit in every match. But there's something to be said for just a great story being told over the course of an entire night. And like those two Survivor Series, they tell a great story. And so we're going to enjoy that. We're going to come back and talk about it in 2 weeks. I am actually thinking, what we should do during the holiday season, because look, it's probably going to be like that we don't do a show Christmas and New Year's weeks. So I'm thinking when we come back in 2022, we will do. Oh, what was I gonna? I had a great idea too. Damn. I mean, I'm definitely not going to have us like watch like an entire year's worth of pay-per-views during this time. It was a really good idea. Well, that'll be a great tease for in 2 weeks. I'll have it for everybody, and I will give you the idea of what we'll do. Is I'm calling it our long-term project. Maybe this wasn't the idea, because I know it wasn't this, because I had something else in mind, but I don't remember that one. So maybe we'll start to unveil our list of greatest all-time matches. And I'm going to invite you to do something with me, something I do every year. And I usually just do it by myself. But this year, I'm going to invite you to go on my road to WrestleMania with me, where I go back and rewatch every WrestleMania, from WrestleMania 1 to WrestleMania, God, what are we at now? 37. And we will do the math to figure out how many we have to watch a week I guess we'll start it next week after the Survivor Series. Because like I told you, I feel like Survivor Series is really when the road to WrestleMania starts. So I'm inviting you, sir, if you should choose to join me, let's go on the road to WrestleMania.
I'll try it.
Now, granted, there's a lot of them that over the course of that time that like I'll kind of have them on, but like I'll be doing stuff. Like it's one of my favorite traditions. I have one of the WrestleManias on while I wrap Christmas presents, and so I will probably do that again this year. But yeah, I mean, it's a fun thing. I think everybody should do that once. Just watch every WrestleMania in a row. It'll be fun. Obviously, not all in one day. That we'd have to break the space-time continuum for that one. All right. I think that's enough out of us. Everybody, have a great night. Enjoy Survivor Series. Come back with us in 2 weeks. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about our homework assignments. I'm looking forward to watching Survivor Series 2005. And everybody, happy wrestling.
Survivor Series.
Ooh, yay.